uneducated noise you're getting from the droves of YOLO meme coin peddling douchebag gurus out there trying to use you as their exit liquidity? Would you rather learn a competent university-level set of skills that will guide you in managing and investing for the rest of your life? Join us 3 days a week at Digital Investor. Develop your knowledge of game theory, cognitive bias, macroeconomics, monetary theory, investment theory, psychology of the crowds, and more. For more info on Digital Investor and how it can help you, reach out at nickblacknext.com.
Can anyone help me find where to purchase the DEX participation? Will, can you further define that question? I don't quite know what you're saying. Hello, hello. Let's see if I can get a cool one. That's pretty cool. Nope, that's better. Yeah. That is the spinning NFT. I'll give you guys news on that in a momentito. We're trying to do everything in our power so that people don't make sham, fake, spoof ones and try to mess with people into buying stuff that's not real. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay, we'll do some Q&A, and then we're going to talk about being brilliant at the basics, which a lot of people have not mastered just yet. Let's see. So if you have questions, throw your questions in there. We'll do 10, 15 minutes Q&A. Let's see. We're at 431 digital investors, 53 private clients. That's cool. Cool numbers there. Let me see. Were there some things that I had to say? Make sure you guys watch the most recent episode of This Week in Hypercycle that we did yesterday with Tufi. It's a good one. Let's see. For those of you that are curious about software, there's the software to split the node licenses. The audits haven't come in yet, so they're waiting for those audits. Then we will, most of you will be able to do it kind of for you. We'll split off your licenses, send them to your wallets. Same wallets where you already have your kind of placeholder NFT. And that new token has a bunch of functionality. So that's why it's not one audit on one smart contract. It's a whole bunch of smart contracts all being audited by 3 different companies all at the same time. So it's a lot of stuff. The news on the tilling is this. He's going to draw a line in the sand. He said tentatively the 1st of November. So basically it goes like this. If you wanted to, I've been thinking about this all night, and basically if you want to get weeks / even up to a month of free tilling, basically is where all the way back to when the machines kind of went online, not just one of the machines for testing, but when tilling kind of started. It's been going for a while. And everybody that purchases node licenses, whether here or anywhere, it's not like a us thing, but if you purchase node licenses before this cutoff point, you should be fine. Meaning that you'll get that tilling history. You'll already have been tilling. After November 1st, and they'll announce if this changes, it's pretty clear that everybody else would start in the beginning again. It would hit the reset switch. You would start from there and move forward. So Now, here's the other thing. For those of you that are just buying licenses and you're going to pledge them without tokens, I wouldn't do it. I guess what I'm saying is not that I wouldn't do it, but they may not have the tokens to seed, because if you're pledging, think about this for a second. If you're pledging your licenses, just a master node, I'm going to pledge a master node with no tokens with it. Okay. So someone else, HyperPG, has to come up with 524,288 tokens, over $500,000 worth of tokens right now, this second. Otherwise, that master node can't be put to service. If you pledged 2 nodes, okay, cool, but somebody's got to come up with 1,024 tokens times 2, 2,048 tokens, right? And so on and so forth. I think people should be having tokens to match their node licenses. And the inference I'm getting from the team is that that's going to be the best way to do it. Otherwise, you may be waiting in line for a long time for them, because if they have to go out and buy the tokens, remember, HyperPG is not Hypercycle. It's a partnership. HyperPG borrows, they pay a rate, but those tokens, they're not free floating tokens just yet. There's only so many tokens. So I think people may be too much on the other side. You know, you had a run up in the tokens a few weeks ago, and then people were kind of quiet on the node licenses. I think it needs to be equal. So I'm just kind of urging people to think like, if I were you, I would be having equal parts licenses to tokens. Also, this has to do with the divorce. If you should unwind, let's say you lend your licenses only to HyperPG, they run them for 2 years. Awesome, you get paid, whatever, or Hyperpool. When they unwind those, they're going to pull their tokens back out. If you didn't marry the tokens together with the licenses, they're going to pull those tokens back out. So if they pull those tokens back out, what do you think is going to happen to that node? The splits are going to unwind, and your score, the nodes will still have some history, but every 10 seconds that they're not participating in that heartbeat function. So what are you going to do? Go out and buy a bunch of tokens then on the market? Hopefully, well, you just go get them at node market. At least you wouldn't get punished that way. And we're building some tools to help people do that. But the point is, you still got to go to the market and buy those tokens. In 2 years, what if the token is $6 or $4 or $2? Let's just say it's $2. You have a master-node license, you pledged it, and you got it back. You're going to go find $1 million. You're going to go find $1.2 million to park, $3 million cash. Come on, bro. Right? Like, I would just put your tokens in your nodes. Look, I don't care what any other group does or anything, but just really think this through. Put your tokens, marry them when you can, here in a few weeks, whenever these audits come back, marry tokens into the nodes. Don't send node licenses off without tokens, because they may be sitting on the sidelines. And if you do unwind them, if your tokens are attached to your node licenses and you pull them back, you leave the data center. You may never leave it, but let's say or maybe you're at HyperPG and you decide, you know what, this time I want to just shift over and be running on Hyperpools instead of HyperPG. I'd rather do a rev share. I'd make more that way, probably. Matter of fact, I think that's the way it would work. So in that situation, you're only going to lose like a few seconds. But if you pull them back, now you got to go get hardware and all this kind of stuff. Now, maybe it's easier to get hardware. We'll certainly know a lot more about hardware 2 years from now. My point being, if your tokens are married to the nodes, you own that whole thing, that bundle, the node license and the tokens. Does that make sense? You own the licenses and you own the tokens, and they are married together, and you have the marriage license. That is the 1155 token. So even if you had a little bit of downtime, you wouldn't lose your splits. You wouldn't lose much of your reputation. You'd be okay. And you may even be able to go from Hyper PG over into Hyper Pools or some comparable pool and have no loss of downtime. It might just be a balance sheet transfer for them. So there you go. Let's see. Node NFT. So the only way to do that, the DApp, Brandon told me, and this is the NFT, by the way, what you're watching spinning around. That's the actual one that'll show up. And yes, yesterday, for who pointed that out, it is Norman Rockwell style, Rockwellian. So for those of you that want it right now, you can contact Brandon. I know that our private clients have already been purchasing them, and they're getting sent to their wallet. For everyone else, the DApp, we're just making sure, doing kind of final like checks on it, make sure everything's safe and yay. And that should be available tonight or tomorrow. But I would say tomorrow, just to be safe. We'll have a minting DApp. But for those of you that absolutely want it now, you can contact Brandon and or me. You could email me or Brandon, and you could get it before tomorrow. Although I don't know if there's any benefit to having it today or tomorrow. Everybody's going to still get their share of all of the revenue that is from the day we started, which was the 15th, all the way up until the anniversary date. Now, we're going to have, like, for instance, somebody who grabs these licenses today is going to be in the first batch of recipients. But after, we think after about the 15th, you would move. You can't basically buy the license the night before the payout. This isn't like dividend fishing and farming, what people do with Apple shares, like the second before the dividend pays, they buy the NFT to grab the dividend. That's a little disingenuous. So we're going to probably, you would have to be before the month to get the month of revenue share. And also the first, I always assumed with Node Market, let's take a look at Node Market for a second. There's some really cool stuff that we're going to build that's going to make this even easier. It's already pretty easy. I mean, if you're a seller or a buyer, you just go here. It's pretty easy, but you have to think differently. You have to think in terms of an OTC transaction, right? So you say, okay, well, what I'm looking for hypercycle tokens. Okay, HYPC. So let's go take a look. Okay, we got hypercycle tokens. These are all the offers. This is how much time is left. I can buy it or not. Great. What is the price? 110, 112, 115. Okay, cool. So what is it? People are starting to think in terms of where they think the token's going to be. Well, maybe I want to sell it $1. Okay, well, maybe I'm just going to list. So I'll list some tokens to sell. But what if if I'm going to buy, a buyer would be looking here to find an order that makes sense for them, right? And this is with any asset. Okay, well, Singularity DAO. I like the idea. Their W2 is their version 2 is coming. I want to get ready for that. Okay, here's 34 cents. Well, it's a test. That's a test transaction, is it? But here's 250 at 55 cents. Okay, there. So, but again, these offers, as more people go to sell, those offers are going to get filled up. Also, we as the company are taking part of the revenue, as you guys know, and part of the revenue goes to the NFT holders. Between 20 and 30%, depending on how many NFTs we sold. But the other part is that we go and buy the tokens from other exchanges, DEXs, low liquidity DEXs. We purchase the tokens and relist them here. Meaning we're hoovering up crap liquidity where you get all of these horrible price effects and slippage and impact and robots jumping ahead of you. And we're converting all of those offers back over here, and we're bumping them up by 5%. That supports everybody's portfolios. For those of you that are looking at your portfolio and you're like, it's red today, I hate my life. It's green, woohoo. So this supports that. And it also hoovers up liquidity from those crap DEXs and puts it in a place where you don't have to worry about the liquidity, because if you see the offer, the tokens exist. Now we're building something else so that visually you'll be able to look at these things the way an order book. It's going to be called an ordered book. And it's going to have And again, we're designing this, so this is not like tomorrow, but this is another thing that's going to make it easy. Is you'll be able to go to any of these assets and you'll be able to look at the ordered book, and you'll have all of these sell offers on top and the purchase offers on the bottom. You say, well, I don't even understand what would a purchase offer be on an OTC. Well, if I can sell Singularity DAO tokens at, let's just say, if I can sell hypercycle tokens for $1, I could also sell USDC or USDT for hypercycle tokens. It's the same thing. So people that are selling stablecoin and they want to receive any of these SNet assets, we're going to have a book for them too. And we're going to have there can be all those pairs. But a good visual way to look at it is for each asset, hypercycle, AGIX, NewNet, Singularity DAO, you're going to have what's called an ordered book with all of the sell offers up top and all of the stablecoin purchase offers on the bottom. And you just take whatever makes sense or offer whatever makes sense. But again, it's all OTC. And the beauty is none of these orders are going to affect the market price. You can buy or sell 1 million tokens. It will not touch coin market cap. It won't touch. This is the future of the way FX swaps and liquidity is moved around. You don't need the whole effing world to be a part of it. It should be between you and the seller, or you as the seller and a buyer. And it should be code-based, smart contract-based, simple transactions. No spoofing, no bullshitting the APIs, no, oh, someone transferred 42 million tokens to the exchange, and a bunch of people panicking and all of that bullshit that goes along with that. No, this is just nice and clean. All right. So there we go. So I hope that kind of explains that a wee bit. So those things are coming. Yeah, untouched by humans. Why? I don't trust humans. Humans steal stuff and humans lie, or humans lie by omission, or they accidentally lie and then they tell lies to cover up the lies. Sometimes people don't go out intending to lie. They just kind of don't know an answer and they just fill in the blanks a little bit. And then that can, spiral out of control in a bad way. So, yeah. Okay. Do you think, here, let's put our hypercycle background since we have a hypercycle question. Do you think the company will allow nodes to stay unfilled? Is there a chance that hypercycle will loan the needed tokens? Yeah, if they have them. But remember, they don't have, the company has a distribution schedule, an emanation schedule of the tokens. It's not like Tufi and company is sitting on 2 billion tokens that they can just spew out whenever they want. These things unlock over time. For instance, as far as I understand, the founders have locked up all their tokens, like locked. It's not a ton of tokens, but it's probably, I don't know, it's probably 100 million or something. You could look. So, and imagine these tokens are behind, they're in a time lock safe. And every day or every week or every month, some of those safes unlock and those tokens are free to be used in the community for a variety of things. But they don't have all 2.147 billion tokens. Meaning there's going to be a lot of node licenses that don't get filled because people just won't fill them. Because maybe when you were buying node licenses and tokens were 38 or 40 cents, you thought it's going to be X amount to fill that license. Now it's going to be more than that. So when you see, and I'm not giving advice, but remember that the price was $1.18. What was it? Let's go look. And again, this is not financial advice, but let's look at the history of it. It hit $1.18 not too long ago. Let's go back even 30 days. All right. We're at $1.18 30 days ago. Do you think that this ecosystem is growing more or less over the next 5 to 6 months? Do you think there will be more people, more investors, more node licenses, more? Do you think it will be more? Let's do that. More or less over the next 6 months? Just a simple more or less will do. More, less, More, less, less, more. I contend that it would be more. And if there's more participants and there's only X amount of tokens. So right now, what is the supply constraint? The commodity right now, licenses, you can go get licenses all day long. You can go right to our site. Matter of fact, you can go right here. Soon you'll be able to get them, but you can go right here, go to Node Market. Oh, I want license. Buy Node license. That seems like a fun button. I'll touch it. Oh my Lord. Oh my Jesus. Oh, by the way, we're going to have an active box here. This will be active and you'll be able to go right to the sales portal over at Hyper AI. We're going to connect you. And again, we're not middlemen in this or anything. We're just going to send you over to them and you guys can buy your boxes. Yeah, boxes. Anyway, so you go right over here, you get your license. Okay, so it's easy to get licenses, right? Super easy. It's not super easy. And yes, the node licenses are fixed. The token is flexible. If you know the token is flexible, tokens are the constraint. And yes, compared to token licenses, token licenses are abundant, tokens are not. And also, the reason we came in and fixed the price of the licenses is to prevent this market getting all wonky. It was starting to look weird. So we said, no. Everything clean, everything concise. The licenses are fixed. They're not going to go up in price. The tokens, we have less control over. I mean, one of the reasons we built the OTC was so that people couldn't use these low liquid markets and these low liquid dexes is to beat up the price. That's not fair to people that, you have to imagine a certain amount of people are just invested in the token. And that's fair too. They shouldn't get punished for that. People that just want to own the token and buy and sell the token. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a healthy part of any ecosystem. So they shouldn't get punished for that either. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's not like, oh, weekends, traders and all this. No, but what we don't want is that someone selling 2 Ethereum worth of hypercycle tokens punishes the price by 10 or 12 cents. In the other way, that one person filling one masternode might panic into the masternode. Someone that's got a lot of money, 30, 40, 60% slippage, they might be like, well, I get to fill the masternode. I'm going to pledge the masternode, or I'm going to run the masternode on 10, $20 million of hardware. Because by the way, that's kind of what it's going to cost if you want to run like full compute AIMs, like AI machines on the kind of highest fidelity transactions. You're looking at 10 to 20 million bucks for a masternode. Yep. Now, that's the very top of the top of the top. But like, there will be some people that do that. And the people that are spending 10, 20 million on equipment and $1 million, they're going to be, so what? Okay, great. It's $1.5 million versus $1.1 million. Okay, whatever. But what is that going to do? That would skyrocket the price. Right now, one masternode purchase, one would make the price of this token $1.60. I mean, as of this morning, if you went and purchased 524,000, you can't, first of all, the robots will absolutely destroy you. Because what the bots get in between the order, they start front running you and basically trying to buy, resell. It's sketch. So it's just almost impossible. So you get screwed. And again, this is why, as we built Node Market as a way to kind of fix this issue, but also just to deal with the low liquidity issues that are kind of rampant in the whole AI market space. And we're going to be adding other AI tokens, but we're really focused just on the AI space. I don't really care about legacy, any of these other tokens and Shiba, Mimu, and all this kind of. I mean, there's all sorts of cool projects out there, and they're fine and they're great, and they even have good teams, just not interested for us. This is the Singularity Net ecosystem, and making that as easy as we can for everyone to participate. Like, everybody gets to participate. There's no rules or constraints. Like, everybody gets to play. So that's the idea. So anyway, to kind of reduce that, the node licenses, are easy to get. The tokens, they will wobble around in price. Now, this will be made better as more orders come to the exchange. This will be made better as more exchange listings occur. But I mean, Cardano's been waiting how many years, and they don't even have a listing over on Gemini. Now, Gemini is a sketch exchange, by the Winklevoss scam artist twins. But my point is, look how big Cardano is, and they can't get a listing on Gemini. So exchange listings just aren't so guaranteed. Plus, you're on centralized exchanges, and maybe you don't want to do business on centralized exchanges. Any of you that have had problems with Coinbase, I've never had problems with Kraken, by the way. Like, those are like the OGs. But anybody that's had Coinbase issues, whatever, it's just it's a constant recurring theme. They tell you what you can and can't do with your money, or your bank. I have somebody that was trying to get some node licenses yesterday, and their bank decided they weren't allowed to wire money to Coinbase. They limited it. Oh, we can't allow you to do that. It's my money. Yeah, but we can't allow that. What do you mean you can't allow it? It's my fucking money. So this whole thing's got to go away. And the only way it goes away is if slowly you siphon off money from the traditional system, from the legacy system, into the decentralized, marginally decentralized, or somewhat decentralized ecosystem that we live in. That's it. That's the only way. I keep most of my stuff. I mean, a lot of it. I think I probably keep 10, 15% in the banking system, spread among many accounts. And then everything else is in the crypto space, or in some other asset, like whatever, like we do, like the cars and the planes and all that kind of stuff. But that's all business related rental stuff. But I'm just not a fan of banks. And I don't like, man, if someone told me what I could or couldn't do with my money, I would lose my shit. Probably get arrested in the bank for just ripping that place apart. Because I don't want to subject myself to that kind of, I just don't go into banks anymore. I don't even know. I can't even tell you the last time I went and walked into a bank. Does anybody here remember walking into a bank? What's that experience even like? I don't know. I see. I keep seeing consistent 7,000 cells that seem to keep the token down in price. Yeah, what you probably see, John, is someone that doesn't understand the value of an OTC, and because they could just list those same sell orders and get the full price. So they probably think that's a price they can consistently sell tokens at, and it won't move the price too much. It's an unintelligent seller, is what it really is. Or just someone that, and I don't say unintelligent, I would say without understanding. Because if they had any understanding, they go sell them. So by doing that, they're either ignorant or sketchy. You're right. So that could be sketchy if they're doing it and they know that there's a place they could go where they wouldn't have to do that. It's like, why would you sell and get beat up if you didn't have to, if you could sell and have no market price reaction and get the full amount of money that you would want? I think credit unions are better. The problem is the credit unions are getting blown up by Fed policy. And I don't mean just like interest rate hikes, but I mean like just Fed policy all around, and the stress testing and all this kind of stuff. And it seems pretty clear that that the prime broker deal, the broker dealer banks, the Chases and the Wells and all these, that it's very clear that they want a bottoms up collapse in the banking system. I think that's so like beyond obvious at this point, like absurdly obvious that they want a bottoms up collapse in the banking system. And you could argue that maybe there are too many banks in America. Like, we don't need like thousands and thousands of banks, that we probably get along with, a couple hundred banks. But I don't think we win if there's 25 banks. I think that becomes dangerous also. And already banks are becoming the biggest owners of real estate. That should also scare people. I mean, like, horrify people. Yeah. Let's see. Should I fill the licenses before boxes? So what I would do, Donna, is when the software is released here in the coming days, every one of my nodes, I would fill it. I would fill every single one with tokens. And then I would have those on standby. And then I think it's very fair to pledge them either to HyperPG or HyperPools or wherever you think that they're going to make the most return. Probably split it. Some with the guaranteed return, some with the HyperPools, so that you can grab some of that revenue that we don't even know what that's going to look like, because in March, we don't know what kind of revenue compute's going to bring in. We estimate from 10 cents a node to $1 a node per day. We just don't know. And no one can tell you, and anyone that tells you they can tell you, they don't know. So like, it is what it is. But I would, I mean, I've been banging around and asking a lot of questions, and my gut feeling is you want to have your tokens married to the node licenses. Don't send them out naked. And I think you want to be able to protect the reputation that they will build for you over time, because as that reputation grows, as those things split, you have more power. Because at the end of that partnership, let's just think about HyperPG. I partner up with HyperPG. Okay, cool. I give them, let's just think about it on the big terms. I give them a master node. So I spend 46K on a master node license. I put the tokens in 500. So I'm 600K in, just on or about, maybe a little bit less, 575 in. Okay. I have $575,000. Well, now we're 24 months later. Now, sure, I've only received X amount of percent, which is whatever. Cool. It's nice. I've gotten my little dividend, but that thing has split twice. So instead of a master node, I basically have 4 master nodes, right? First split is 2, second split is 4. So I now have 4 master nodes, cracking X amount per node per day. So I fast forward 6 to 18 months. I now have 6 to 18 months. And also, if you have a master node, that you see where I'm going with this. At the end of that 2-year period, when it's time to renegotiate, either pull your node license and your tokens back, or redistribute to another pool or somewhere else. You're going to have a lot of leverage because you have the tokens and everything in there. If you don't, they just unwind your stuff. Like, here's your license. Later, bro. They just buy a license and replace it. So I think you want to have the tokens. And by the way, for those of you that think, well, what happens if I've got this node license? It's infused with tokens. It's doing great. But I want to sell it, but I don't want to unwind it. You don't have to. We're creating at Node Market a secondary marketplace for those node licenses that are in production. You'll be able to sell them like you would sell a business, a coffee shop, or anything else. You'll just be able to flip them like a business. It's going to be really cool. That's another function that's coming, is the rating system. So you'll be able to check your nodes, like your node licenses, and see where they rate. And you'll be able to see how they compare to the community, to the other node licenses. And you'll also be able to buy and sell like little businesses. Super cool. Hyperpool, isn't it more of a crapshoot because of potential unforeseen downtime? No, I would think it would be less downtime, because Hyperpool is going to leverage server farms and big compute facilities. I think the crapshoot would be running any more than a couple of nodes on your own. Now, I'm getting one of the Hyper AI boxes. I know several of us are. I know Brandon's going to get one. I'm going to get one, and I'm going to till a full master node up until compute starts. Once compute starts around March, I'm going to then allocate it to whatever I think is the best choice at the time. And obviously, we're going to, like, as we get more information, we'll just keep kind of trying to make the best decision, if that makes sense. So it's not, I mean, I would feel probably safer. You're not going to be able to run any more than 1 or 2 nodes on a box, on a master. But on the other side of it, I think it'll be really cool to run one at home. And then if it splits, okay, great. It split to 12, 15 months, still a good problem to have. And then you make the decision. Do I want to keep, maybe I keep 1 node and then I push everything else off to Hyperpool or HyperPG, or split. So again, at that time, you can also imagine there's probably going to be other pool operations that offer different or competitive pricing schemes where they'll pay you this much for your tokens, this much for that, this much for that. So as these things all kind of, flesh out, you just make the best decision at the time. A lot of these are decisions you just want to be thinking about them. But you don't have to make these decisions now. There's no rush. Let's see. Node watch. Will it rate all nodes? Hyperpool. Yeah, it's going to rate all nodes. Yes, all nodes. I mean, all nodes that we can get information on. And if you think about it, if it's a giant network that utilizes all of the nodes in the network to create this global brain, it must have a way to be monitored, because that's how a rating is created. Remember, compute, uptime, and reputation. Well, if you can monitor compute, uptime, and reputation in a decentralized way, then we can monitor you monitoring compute, uptime, and reputation in decentralized and disintermediated way. So if they can see it, we can see it. That's why we can watch all these wallet behaviors and transactions, and why you can't really pull crypto scams anymore. You say, oh, I'll go use a Tumblr. Yeah, but the cops can see you go to the Tumblr, and they can see money come out the other end, and they can see you with 17 Ferraris. Bro, you're going to jail. You're busted. So anyway, that's that. And again, many of these, man, these are my opinions, man, because the things that we don't have facts on, we have to defer decision-making sometimes, and that's okay. And I do realize that everybody's trying to make the best decision possible. I think right now, this second, the token is the release valve. The token is the commodity. There's plenty of orange trucks, the licenses. There's not a lot of oranges. And to get the oranges, it's kind of difficult. So be smart. All right. That being said, we got to do some classroom stuff, man. I can't just wax philosophical all day. Let's get over to the class. We're going to talk about today. My being brilliant at the basics was something that we were actually chatting about. Ethan and I and a few other people were in the Crypto and Coffee Telegram chat, which is not super secret. And oh God, well, I won't go down that path. But anyway, we were talking in the chat about being brilliant at the basics, and I was starting to think, well, as it kind of relates to game theory. So I thought, why don't we talk a bit about the art of being brilliant at the basics? This was something I used to have a guy that trained me in sales. It was a regional VP for a company, and he trained me in sales. And for months, I didn't learn anything about the pricing or anything. I was like, I don't understand. Where's the sales part? But he was Miyagiing me. He's doing a Miyagi against me. And he was teaching me the tools, these kind of underlying psychological tools for being good at sales. So be brilliant. That was his thing. I would say, be brilliant at the basics. He was always really well dressed, and he wore a really bright colored watch. And in many ways, he was kind of a jerk, but he was a very successful jerk. And his name was Prince, right? Like that's a little braggadocious, I think. Anyway.
Hello. You're late.
You're bad at math, but I'm giving you an A+ in confidence.
Just doing what I gotta do.
Extra credit.
So good. Okay. Do I even have a banner for that? Brilliant at the base? Nah. Let's just go here. All right. So when we talk about the art of being brilliant at the basics, this is kind of like the principle of, any sport you watch, what do they say? Like, defense wins championships, right? Be brilliant at the basics. You can teach anyone the basics. Anyone, almost anyone, can master basic skills. Talent is something different. Talent you have or you don't have, or you have a degree of in some weird nebulous way. You can't teach talent, right? You can teach basics. You can teach skills. And so this is relevant to game theory, and it's relevant to cognitive bias and game theory. This is our foundation for decision making, right? So you have to first understand the basics. At its core, being brilliant at the basics is about mastering foundational principles. The foundation, what first principles, what do you revert to make a decision? Your foundation, like the foundation of a house, that's where you start. Even if you wipe the rest of the house off, you have the foundation. So in the realm of game theory and investing, this means understanding these basic tenets, rationality. And so many times I find myself in a discussion with people that they're not thinking rationally. I've been trying to buy a goddamn house for like 2 years now, and the sellers are not rational thinkers. And I've shown them a way to save a couple $100,000. They're like, well, we're not interested. What do you mean you're not interested? You're going to light money on fire. Anyway, it's irrational thinking. And the problem is you can't explain to someone that's irrational that they're irrational because they don't get it. So, it can feel overwhelming. But anyway, you have to be brilliant at being rational. You have to have good structured strategy, and you have to understand payoffs. If you understand rationality, strategy, and payoffs, you can just about see the future. And which sometimes in social situations you basically can, and that makes life kind of boring, but it makes you really good at predicting things. Anyway, before delving into kind of complex strategies, you have to kind of spend equal amount of time studying the rudimentary like particles, right? Like you can't study complex particle physics until you've looked at the early universe and you understand hydrogen, then helium, then lithium, then beryllium, because of like the rest of it won't make sense unless you know like the basics. So your primer is game theory. In essence, and look, when I talk about game theory a lot, I talk about game theory a lot because it's so important. Okay. And so, game theory immediately rolls into cognitive bias and these kind of cognitive predispositions. So game theory is the system for making the decisions. Cognitive bias are the things that cloud your decisions. And if you understand both of those, you get really good at decision making. Again, just by being really good at the basics. You don't have to be, this is not like a genius thing. So game theory focuses on, we talk about all the time, the strategic interactions or interdependencies among rational players. So each player is we all are aiming to maximize our payoffs. We operate in scenarios where the outcome is influenced by multiple actions, including our own actions. So we have to make assumptions based on the most rational action of the person on the other side of the table, or the other side of the court, or the other side of the ocean with missiles aimed at us, right? And so investing becomes much simpler when we think of these kind of fundamentals and we weave them in. The fundamentals revolve around understanding assets, understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. That's why, every couple of months we talk about your personal balance sheet, which you should be doing, assets, liabilities. What is your true income? Your cash flow. I mean, these things they're so important. Where's my little page? I usually keep like a little piece of paper. I have one that I used. Oh, where is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah. I keep one of these around to remind myself, like, it's important. Pay attention to your income, your expenses, your assets, liabilities. Look at what your cash flow is. Like, these things are not just like funny little cutesy like sayings. Like, you have to live by this stuff or you'll get punished by it. So anyway, understand assets, understand liabilities, understand the kind of interplay between risk and reward. What is it going to cost me? What do I get? Is this asset worth? Can it return a 10x? Can it return 100x? Like, can it return no X? Does it become a trade? It's a 2x. So like game theory, an investor's decisions are often shaped by market dynamics and mostly the choices of other investors. The big beauty pageant, right? So then you factor in, okay, cognitive bias. How does this start to affect not only my own decision-making, but where could I see it affecting other people's decision-making? So our cognitive biases These are these systemic patterns of a deviation from rational thought, from a standard baseline of rational decision making. Like a rational decision maker in their mind thinks, I will not turn into oncoming traffic because that is counterproductive. That is important. So biases can cloud our judgment, and it can lead us astray from logical decision making. And that's the key. Get back to logic, get back to reasonability, get back to structured, good structured argument, right? So understanding cognitive bias and like the main ones that affect us, that's kind of the 25 cognitive biases. That's important. They play pivotal roles in game theory, and in that, every single investment decision you make is standing on the shoulders of game theory as your decision-making system and cognitive bias as those kind of anti-rational influences, the murkiness or the mist. So now you have to connect the dots. Okay, connecting dots, rational decision-making, strategic interactions, and understanding payoffs. Charlie Munger, even though he hates crypto, but he's not a dummy, right? Nobody that's 99 eats every piece of crap that those guys eat and that is like a mini billionaire. No one with that amount of success, even if they don't agree with us, they are not dumb. They have missed a few, but they've made a few, right? So in rational decision-making, while game theorists assume that rationality, they assume other people are rational. So you got to be careful, but you have to start somewhere. You have to assume that at least 51% of the people on the other side of the investment table are rational players, right? And investors strive for it. Cognitive biases challenge this rationality, right? Cognitive bias gets in the way of rational decision-making. So recognizing and mitigating these biases for you is a skill that you can do, every single person here can do, on that kind of that path of being brilliant at the basics. Everybody here can understand cognitive bias. There's only like 25 main ones, and then there's the little derivatives. Like, think about it. You could memorize, if nothing else, 25 of these things, and just the act of memorizing them will help you see them and expose them in your own life. If you just do that, it's probably a 10x on your like achievement in life. Just an easy 10x that everybody could do. Will people do it? Probably not. Probably not. But I know that when I started really studying cognitive bias, my investments got much, much smarter. And also, this bleeds out into your entire life. It's not just what you do on your investment portfolio, but the way you interact with humans, which, again, like life is a lot of networking. So now let's think about strategic interactions. So you have, just as a player's move in a game can influence outcomes, or the way you like playing billiards, the break can affect outcomes, an investor's actions can sway the market. Well, look what we were just talking about earlier. Whoever is the doofus in there selling 7,000 tokens every few minutes. They believe that either they can maintain some market price, or that 7,000 is the most they can sell without getting too beat up, or they don't understand how OTCs work. It's one of those. But their actions are creating a market effect. It shouldn't. No one person should be able to do that, but they are. But cognitive biases like herd behavior can lead to irrational market trends. If you have a few people like that and they're not doing it on purpose, that means they're doing it from a place of stupidity or an inability to achieve information. If they had all the information, or if they were slightly more educated, they would go post those same orders on an OTC and have more money in their pocket. So you decide, do they want less money? And a lot of times you would say, well, if they want less money, that's irrational behavior, unless there's some perverse incentive. So it's worth consideration, but when you look at that behavior, that you say that is either irrational or perverse. There's no in between. So, and then as Charlie Munger said, you show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. Right? Evaluating outcomes is integral to both game theory and investing. You have to understand like the payoffs, right? What is at the end of this, me and him, me and him, me and her, over and over and over. So you need to evaluate those outcomes, and you need to use, again, game theory as your decision making. Understand cognitive bias gets in the way of rational understanding. And this clearly applies to investing. So cognitive biases like confirmation bias, it can hinder our ability to accurately assess situations. It just clouds your judgment. It makes you less rational. So when you look at the basics of strategy in decision making and where they kind of that nexus, whether you're discussing like Nash equilibrium in game theory or the efficient market hypothesis in investing, which I don't quite subscribe to because of perverse incentive structures. That's a whole other discussion. But or you're talking about like anchoring bias in decision making, you have a much more profound understanding of the basics, which help navigate more complex fields. So a lot of times you'll look at a situation in investment market and it seems obvious that they're doing this. And then you look a little deeper and go, no, they weren't doing that because they were hedged over here. That's why they were doing it. Then you look a little deeper. Oh, crap. Why were they hedged over here? Oh, because they owned all this. And you realize that things are rarely like one step away. They're usually a couple of derivatives away. But again, your ability to use game theory, understand cognitive bias, it just helps you navigate all those weirdnesses. You talk about like one of the case studies, anytime, and we'll kind of bring this to a close, but anytime that you get into discussion about game theory, you talk about the prisoner's dilemma, and obviously like market bubbles, confirmation bias, kind of the basics, right? So consider the prisoner's dilemma where you have two suspects and they're obviously acting in their own self-interest. But if they are completely acting in their own self-interest, they have a worse outcome, right? Whereas they have to assume that there are things they can't assume. But if they assume that the other person's going to work in their own self-interest, that assumption gives them both a better payoff, which is kind of weird. And again, we can go back and we've done whole shows on the prisoner's dilemma. It's actually worth study. Maybe Thursday we'll talk about the prisoner's dilemma specifically, but it's very interesting to go through these kind of thought experiments. Anyway, relating to like market bubbles in investing, sometimes short-term gains will blind investors to long-term risks, or short-term gains will have people exiting and they will forget they won't even look at long-term benefits, right? Like people that bought hypercycle at 6 or 7 cents or 5 cents or 10 cents, and they sold at $1. I'm out. Maybe that was a good decision. But what if the price ends up being $4 or $5? What if you get 10 splits and you're making 512 times your money every day? They're like, over time, a lot of decisions can look really bad or really good. So again, you be brilliant at the basics. Game theory, cognitive bias can get in the way. Be a critical thinker. Be open to being wrong. Little lies, even if they're accidental, lead to big lies. Confirmation bias sets in where you start looking only at information that confirms your own beliefs or your own pre-beliefs, your preconceptions. This can inflate bubbly behavior. So there's these things are woven in. Game theory, basic investing skills, cognitive biases, but brilliance doesn't come from a talent. There's only so many Tupi Salibas, Ben Gortzels, Dan Tollivers. There's a handful of them. The rest of us, we have to be brilliant just from having a solid foundation. And if you have a solid foundation in game theory, cognitive bias, you understand the tools in the financial market and you understand the basic gears that turn these economies, which most people do not. I mean, even guys that run hedge funds and stuff, they just don't get it. They don't they look at the watch and they cannot tell you how it works. I'm like, well, there's 7 gears. You can't reduce that. They're like, no, it's just gears. Oh my God. But you see, that's opportunity. So in this market, the more pieces there are that you have to understand, the less likely other people are willing to do the work. It's the same thing with when you're looking at, at a sales flow and they say, oh, the more buttons someone has to click, the less likely they are. Like every new button, half of the people are going to go away because they'd have to click another button. Okay, but if you think of that in terms of research, if each one of those gears, you're like, okay, let me look at that gear now. What does that do? Now let me look at that gear, because I know most people won't. If you're willing to do that, those are orders of magnitude of success. And then the people around you are like, I don't understand. You start getting called lucky. You say, oh, you're so lucky. I'm not lucky, bro. I just chose to dive deeper into these weird little realms. And I keep in mind that mastery doesn't mean I have to be a genius. It just means I have to be brilliant at the basics and recognize and overcome all of these biases that get in the way of being brilliant at the basics. Simple-ish. Anyway, I would urge people to kind of think about that because I think it's important. I just think sometimes people get overwhelmed and they start asking rather than doing the work. And I just always urge everyone, do the work. As much as you can, do the work yourself. And then you won't owe anyone else. Either way, in success or failure, you'll be able to own it. That's pretty important, right? You want to own your successes, get past your failures, all the things you failed at. That's just a list of stuff that didn't work. You know what that means? That means the list of stuff that does work is much easier to see. That's it. You ain't got to be lucky. Brilliant at the basics. So let us all endeavor to be brilliant at the basics. And on that, we will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. For anybody that does want, no. Okay, let me tell you really quick. This was done in the GPT-4 app while I was having coffee. I was like, I want a cool piece of art for brilliant at the basics. It's so good. It's now in the phone app. Done. Like, you can do it right from your phone. It's so badass. When I have coffee, I'll think about what I'm going to talk about, and I often mess around with artwork. And it's right there in the GPT-4. If you select GPT-4, you'll have a search with Bing and DALL-E 3. You go to DALL-E 3, you can talk images into creation right there in the app. It serves you up 4 images. You choose what you want. It's so dope. Anyway, brilliant at the basics, fellas. All right. For those of you that want the NFTs and you just can't wait till tomorrow, I don't see why that's a deal, but yes, you can get them. You can contact me or Brandon. Otherwise, we should have the DApp ready. We think we'll have it ready tomorrow. People can just do their own thing. We're looking at our first revenue payout, which of course, this is month 1, where I believe the first 2 to 3 weeks is just filling the order pipeline. So I would urge any of you, if you are looking to sell any of these assets, go and list your sell orders here. Don't go to DEXs where you're going to get nuked. Go here, go to View Exchange on nodemarket.io, create a listing, just search for whatever token, right? You can search a token and then you just create a listing. Okay, Singularity DAO, great. All right, list tokens, click, you connect your wallet and off you go. You set your price, you set what you want to get paid in Ethereum, USDT, USDC, just set it and forget it. You can do 1 week, you can do 2 weeks, you can do 1 month. We're even going to set up a 90-day. We don't want to go much past that because we want people to stay kind of active and current with their sales orders. Plus, you want to be able to track the market. But again, if you put an order in for a certain price, that's because that's the price you're willing to accept. So if you think, hey, I want to get paid $1.05 for my hypercycle tokens, okay, go hypercycle, list tokens, connect your wallet, set up the sell order. That's it. Wait for money. The more orders that come, the more people that kind of infuse their orders in here, the easier it's going to be for other people to get those orders filled, which brings more people. The only people that don't use an OTC exchange are people that don't understand either that exists or how to use it. Because anybody that messes with these things goes, shit, this is better. It's guaranteed limit orders with no middlemen. Anyway, be brilliant at the basics, peeps. We'll see you on the morrow.
If you're an accredited investor and you want in on angel, seed round, or early round equity and token opportunities in the artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency space, schedule an interview at nickblacknext.com. In life, you can either be really good, really lucky, or just be first. Being first is so much easier. Schedule a digital private client interview today at nickblacknext.com.